Good morning.
Good morning, Cindy.
I'm here with Elizabeth Billups, who's a new friend of mine, and I'm just delighted to be with you here today. Thank you for asking me to help you, let people know about this incredible book you've written.
Thank you.
This is Elizabeth's book, and we're here to hear her story about why this was written and who is the correct audience for this book. And Elizabeth, why don't you share with us?
Okay, great. Thanks, Cindy. Yeah, my name's Elizabeth Billups, and I wrote a book to help teach kids about cancer. Any child that's affected by cancer. Could be someone that they could have cancer, or maybe their grandfather or grandmother or parent or uncle, friend, anyone, sibling. And it's called The Puddle Jumper's Guide to Kicking Cancer. And so basically I wrote it based on our own experience of my daughter was diagnosed with leukemia at age 9. And I'm thrilled to report that she just finished her last treatment of chemo just a few weeks ago. So,
but that was a long course.
It was a long time. It was about 850 days straight of chemo.
Wow.
And for the first 8 months of the leukemia regimen, I didn't know this, it's kind of split up into 2 parts. You have the first part that's kind of what people normally think of as the intensive chemo, which is about 8 or 9 months. And that's for a leukemia child patient. They get weekly port infusions, monthly spinal taps, and daily oral chemo, in addition to shots. So, and then after that's when they lose their hair and obviously feel gravely ill. And my daughter had 11 blood transfusions during that time period. And then, and she was nauseous threw up pretty much every day, or for sure every week for the whole 8 to 9 months. And unfortunately, there were about 4 months where she threw up almost every day, multiple times a day. So it was a very, very hard time. And then luckily after that, then you get to move what's called maintenance, and it's easier. She still felt quite ill compared to your typical kid, but much better than she felt the first 9 months. So that period goes for about 1 year and 3/4. So the total time period is 2.5 years. Yeah.
And your book gives, one thing I really appreciate about your book especially is that it gives a child a real understanding, a simplistic but important understanding of what's coming.
Yeah, that was my hope, because some people might think it's a little of a depressing topic to talk to kids about cancer. But the way I figure it is, by the time they're getting this book, someone they love or themselves has already had this scary news that they or someone they love has cancer. So they pretty much, at least in our experience, you kind of get plunged into a little darkness, right? Or quite a bit of darkness. Yeah. And the way I picture this is the flashlight. You're already in the dark, but this is going to show you how to help you, at least one tool to use to get out of the darkness.
Absolutely.
So that's the hope.
And you said that it came from also from the fact that you were unable to find any such a book.
Yeah, that's true. I did find books. There are several books, and they're very quite possibly might be a beautiful book that I never found, because I know people like myself self-publish, and it's tricky to find them. So if you're out there, let me know, because I want to help you share your book too. But the ones that I found that were easier to find on the internet were written, I felt like they were written they basically glossed over it, the difficulties. And they were just a little too upbeat to be real, and I don't think it does the children any help to be dishonest with them about how hard this is going to be. I mean, obviously, I had to walk a fine balance of being honest but not scary.
And I think you've done a great job.
Thank you. But the other books, I felt like they grossly underestimated the difficulties that the child would face. Or if it's the parent that the parent's facing, or the grandparent or friend or sibling. And that's the biggest thing, is I really wanted a book to teach, because I have 3 daughters, and at the time they were 4, 9, and 11. And I was really looking for a book to show all the kids, so that all 3 kids could better understand what it is we're facing.
Yes.
and I just could not find any. So we were talking about, actually Gracie is the one that gave me the idea in the doctor's office one day. We were passing the time, which is something you get really quite good at when you're fighting any sort of long-term illness. And we were passing the time by playing the alphabet game for cancer terms. So,
Oh dear.
you gotta work with what you have. So we were saying A is for A and C, B is for blood, C is for cancer. I don't know, D I think was blood donor. E, I don't remember what E was. But the point is, she said, Mom, you should write a book for kids. There's a lot to learn when you have cancer. And I said, you're right. That's a great idea. I've written another book. I've written one other book, and then I've written many, many other things as a corporate writer, and then I also just enjoy blogging and things like that. So this is the first children's book, though, so it's fun. And then I did the illustrating, even though I did not know how to draw when I started this.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I tell people that only to encourage that I would have never dreamed that I could. I mean, I'm not saying this is, Van Gogh.
No.
But I think it's cute, and I'm super excited because it shows that if I can draw, anyone can learn how to draw.
Oh, that's encouraging.
Yeah, and I learned it on YouTube, so that's partly why I wanted to make sure we put this video on YouTube to help encourage people and educate. I feel like I owe such a debt to all the generous people who have put videos on YouTube. I not only used it as educational opportunities throughout the cancer journey, but then also just how to learn how to draw.
Yeah.
And it was really therapeutic. I was thinking of having, because I'm a writer, I was thinking of having someone else do the illustrations, but I didn't want to miss out on the fun part. And this gave us something for Gracie and I, and Josie and Sophie, all of my girls, and even my husband got in on it sometimes to try to figure out, what she should look like, what color.
Yeah.
And I don't know, is it okay if I tell you a little bit more about the cover?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so there's a
Me
few
too.
things that I'm a huge reader, and I love metaphors and things like that. So the reason why she is the Puddle Jumper is I didn't want it to be just Gracie's story. I wanted all children to be able to identify with this story. So I wanted a generic description. And I thought Puddle Jumper was great because what a lot of kids like to do. They like to puddle. They like to jump in puddles. But the beauty of it, after I started thinking about it some more, is that these kids are making their own fun, even though it is raining or even though it has recently rained. They're still finding a way to have fun, right?
Yes.
And that's what kids do best.
That's right.
It's the adults that get all bent out of shape. The kids are like, oh, it's raining. We can still go out,
Yeah.
And in this case, as Gracie told me after I finished drawing this, is she said, this works great because I was just about to add some raindrops. And she said, no, this is better because, see, by the time I'm telling this story, the rain is stopped.
Oh.
I'm coming out of the rain.
Oh.
So I'm taking the umbrella down. I'm looking around going, the sun is coming out. If you can see that. The lights is on there. And her dog Rue, trusty dog Rue, which is a character based off of our own sweet dog. She's she serves as she's named after Winnie the Pooh Rue, so it's ROO. But she's the comic relief in the story because when you have something as heavy as cancer, you got to have some silliness, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So here, I'll show you an example, if that's all right. This is kind of an example of our Rue ad. So this is a page where it talks about Gracie losing her hair, and she's just shocked, which is exactly how my Gracie looked. But this is Rue, and she says, I don't know if you can read it, but she says, I kind of like my new look, but this wig is hot. So Rue has the wig on, if you can see that.
Oh, that's
anyway,
awesome.
so it was truly, I've been writing since I was in first grade, and this is truly the hardest thing I have ever written. Even though people think a children's book would be easy, but
no, your subject matter is difficult and challenging, but you've just done such an uplifting, read
I hope
here
so.
for the
That's
readers.
what the goal was. So you just balance the reality with it, with the hope.
Yes.
Honesty and hope, and that balance is what we were all trying to go for.
And it really comes through in the reading of your book. I can't say enough about it. Now, I would imagine that this would be not only just a terrific book to buy for any child dealing with someone that they love or themselves with cancer, but this should be in doctor's offices, reading rooms, and whatever.
Well, that would be
You know,
wonderful, yeah.
It really should.
I am trying to donate it as much as I can, and I did a matching program where some of my friends helped to donate copies. But yeah, definitely, I would love it if people would, buy it and give it to their nearest doctor's office, just so that the children can. The sad fact, one of my daughter's teachers just the other day said that cancer is not just Gracie's enemy. Cancer is an enemy that unfortunately way too many of us face.
Absolutely.
And I don't think there's a person, unfortunately, in this world that doesn't have at least one person they care about, at least a little remotely, that is not fighting cancer.
Exactly.
Even maybe right now in their life, much less maybe a few years ago or a few years ahead. And how wonderful would it be if all the kids already knew a little bit more about it, so that when it does come into their life, into their scope, they are a little more prepared, and maybe it's not quite so scary. Because
I see.
there are amazing wonders that we're doing with medicine now. And so
Absolutely.
cancer is not the same situation as it was even 10 or 20 years ago. Thank
Absolutely.
goodness.
Yes.
And obviously, it's always going to be uncertain, as life is. But to know that the children are already equipped, knowing that cancer has there's a lot of hope that you can still find when fighting cancer, then if someone they do care about has it, they would already be prepared. They'd already be a step ahead.
Absolutely. I love the way you start out. Hi there, my name is Gracie. Thanks for reading my story. I hope it helps you.
Yeah.
And that really, to
That's
me,
the whole
expresses
point.
the whole
Yeah.
point of what you've written. But you go on here to say, I'm pretty much just a normal kid. I am a soccer player, artist, and puddle jumper. And then Gracie shares, I also have cancer.
Yeah.
And that's, I love the hope that, I'm a normal kid, but I've got this problem. And then you go on, and she says, get out. Having cancer just means something is growing inside my body that shouldn't be there.
Yep.
It's just such your book it speaks to me as an adult, but it's the simple basic truths about things that come into your life that
That's
aren't
not
good.
great. No, you're right.
You
It could
know,
be translated to lots of things. Right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I see here, and yet the application is, of course, your major point.
Yes.
But I love the hopefulness with which you write. The reality of what's going on. There's no sugarcoating what's going on. Is there any particular part of the story here that you?
Well, probably. I had someone illuminate this to me the other day. Actually, someone in his 20s that had cancer when he was younger, and it was wonderful to get his perspective. And one of the interesting things is I hadn't recognized that I had done this, but he said, "Oh, your book is actually kind of split into two sections. The first section is very factual and orientating, kind of saying like, here's this new world that you're in. This is the country. Here's the map. Here's where the lake is. Here's where the castle is. Here's where the forest is. That you got to watch out for that forest. Kind of like a fairy tale, right? Like there's different things that the child needs to be aware of in this new land called cancer, fighting land. But then the second half, and so we talk about the superhero team and the chemo and the specifics about how you fight cancer. So I've got an page that the nurse, I had a really tricky time writing this page, and our nurse kept encouraging me and saying, you really got to get this page in there. So I looked back to real pictures of my family, and this is actually based on a real picture of Gracie and her little sister Sophie when she was getting chemo. But so this is like kind of the practical side of the book. And then what he helped me realize is that it shifts to, okay, now this is kind of the last page of the practical side. She's going to the hospital. She's got all this free time on her hands and trying to take advantage of that free time. But then now it switches to more of an emotional battle, which I do think is what probably makes this book different than the ones that I read, is that they don't include as much of the realities of the emotional battle that happens. So as it says here, kicking cancer is kind of like riding a roller coaster. There are highs and lows. sometimes I wonder if it's my fault that I have cancer, but I know it's not anyone's fault. There are just times when bad things happen for no reason at all. And I wanted to put this in there because I know I've had health problems in my life before this, and then my daughter getting sick. I'm sure there were moments when she did wonder, did I do something to cause this?
Absolutely.
And that's completely false, as we know, but it's just a message that sometimes gets sent, or that we think but we don't want to say or ask. So I just wanted to make sure that I did whatever I could to underscore for the parents, for siblings, for anyone involved in anyone's life that's struggling with cancer, that this is not something that is a punishment. This is just a bad accident.
Yeah.
This is just a thing that happened. And then, and I talk about in this, I said, of course, it's hard on mom and dad too. I've even seen them cry, which is not something that you really want to read in a children's book. I recognize that it's not very warm and fuzzy, but it's real.
It's real.
And it doesn't do anyone any good to act like it's not hard and then have them finish reading some other book and then look and see their parents either fighting or crying because they're so upset. And then them wondering, well, why did the child in the book have it so easy? My life is torn to pieces for a little while, you know?
Absolutely.
But then I tried to focus every page. I tried to bring it up on a genuinely honest, uplifting note. And there was an actual time when I was in a particularly awful mood and very frustrated at everything going on. And I was literally upset about something ridiculous that had nothing to do with cancer. But we all knew I was upset about the cancer.
Absolutely.
But I was so mad, and Gracie was home, and my other daughter was home, my 4-year-old, and Gracie said, like, I just started yelling and screaming and stomping around like a grumpy old bear, and she, at some point, put on the song Scream and Shout and Let It All Out. So we did. We screamed and shouted, and then we danced, and we had fun, and crazy things happened. We started laughing, and it just goes to show you can still have a lot of fun while fighting cancer. I mean, it may sound crazy to people, but that's why I said, what a ride. It's the attitude. Now, the dog is genuinely scared, which I have been many times in our life, but we've also been like, wow, we're seeing things we never would have seen had it not been for this. No.
And you even say here, kicking cancer is hard work for our whole family. Mom and dad make sure we do a lot of fun things together. And that's...
Yeah, I mean, you have to be more intentional, right? When you're facing something like this. You have to be more intentional about taking breaks. But that's such a key.
Yes, it is.
And that's kind of one of the things that I just wanted to try to, something we learned.
Lovely little picture about how I'm trying to get this straight on the camera.
Yeah,
it's not working. Okay, there we go. About a trip to the beach.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Just trying to come up with something that hopefully most kids have at least some access to some sort of water.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be an ocean.
Sort
be a pond.
It's I was just really touched by how real it is. And just like you, this is you. This is you living
what
your
you
life.
see is what you get.
Exactly, and I love that. I love that the book reflects honesty about what the process is like. It's not. There's nothing.
Forced, hopefully.
Yeah, nothing forced, but what I was thinking was more like there's nothing ugly about, you make this, I mean, let's face it, this wasn't a beautiful journey.
No, there is a lot of ugliness inside cancer.
There's ugliness in it.
There is, and there's yuckiness and kid terms, right? I live with a lot of kids, so there are some yucky moments for sure.
And you touch that. I mean, enough that the child is going to feel, the child's going to feel affirmed in their anger, affirmed in their pain, affirmed in their just nausea. I want to just say, like, this whole thing is
awful.
Just icky.
It's awful.
Right? But not in a negative way. I don't even know how you were capable of expressing that, but you really have done an amazing job doing that, Elizabeth.
I'm glad you like it, and I hope that it
I'm
helps.
blessed by it incredibly. I really feel that this is going to help a lot of people, and I really would recommend it.
Thank you so much.
You know, it's an
Thank you.
amazing book.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And I'll just add, we're going to have a YouTube video also where Gracie had, my 11, the one who had cancer, had the chance to narrate the book, but she bypassed it because she, as she always says, she doesn't want to be famous. I think she's the only 12, well, now she's 12, only 12-year-old in America that doesn't want to be famous. But her little sister is a little more the dramatic flair. So she had narrated the book for us, and we did the video with it. So also on YouTube, you gotta check out. You can read the whole book, or you can listen to Sophie, little sister Sophie, say the book, and hopefully. I always say, you know, this is not about making money. This is about making change, and I am delighted if someone just shares the YouTube video with any child that that would benefit from learning about cancer. Please do.
Nice.
And if you do want to buy the book, it's available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. But please feel free to just share that YouTube video. That would be a real blessing, and I'd be very.
And I think it's extremely reasonably priced.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to keep it very reasonable.
It really is.
The price changes sometimes with Amazon, but the Kindle is under $3, and the paperback is under $15. So, but yeah, definitely. And if there's ever anyone that needs this book but can't afford it, you can always email me at info@teachkidsaboutcancer.com, and I will do my best to get that book to that child.
That's so nice.
Well, I have a lot of friends that are helping me to make sure that this mission happens too.
That's great. Well,
thank you so much.
Well, thank you for asking me. I've just been so happy to get to know you and learn about your story.
Well, thank you.
Gracie's.
All right.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.